Hello, bonjour, and welcome to Mystic in the Machine. We're on time today for once.
Just about.
We made it for Monday, even though we did party pretty hard for Halloween weekend.
It was good fun.
I'm still recovering.
Went to see Tim Reaper in Shoreditch smash it at this place called Basing House, which I've not been to before, but it was awesome. It was really good.
Cool. Yeah. I was in a cheerleader costume, and people kept taking my pom-poms, which was really annoying. But that's the only complaint I have. Other than the fact that I'm exhausted, and it just shows how old I'm getting. I can't do this.
To be fair, if you bring props, like, people are gonna want to engage with the props.
Jake nearly took your robot mask or whatever, but then you said you didn't want to rave in a sweaty robot mask.
Yeah, like, it's the thing where there was the first, like, maybe hour and a half, I was like, oh no, I could have done this. This would have been really cool. Like, this would have been really fun, and I bet, like, loads of people would have, like, dug that. That would have been really fun. But then after that, I was just like, absolutely not. Like, the place is now completely heaving with people, and it's not the same temperature.
Do you think people would have tried to steal your mask off?
They wouldn't have tried to steal it. I don't think no one would have tried to steal it.
Do you want to show them the mask?
No, I can't be asked because I've got to take this behind a bunch of other
We'll
stuff.
show you next episode. But
you want me to do a podcast in the
fully
mask?
in the mask. You can program like words and shit into the fucking. It's a super cool mask. It's a really cool mask.
You give me so much shit about that mask.
I said I didn't want you to wear it when we perform on stage.
If it's so cool, then why not?
Because it makes it gimmicky. Like, why am I singing next to a dude in a mask?
It's
like,
Mystic in the Machine, for real. Manifest. I'm the machine.
Nah.
You're the mystic.
Halloween is when it's appropriate.
Okay.
And you chose to pussy out and not wear it. So he was just like dressed like a normal dude, and I was like in my like vampire cheerleader costume trying to run away from people who were trying to steal my pom-poms all night.
It was good fun.
I do recommend, if you're ever like on ecstasy, having pom-poms. It's like the best. It's the best thing in the world. Jake has some video of me like fucking dancing uncontrollably with them, and I thought I looked really cool at the time, but then when I watched the videos back, I was like, no.
That's how drugs make you feel all the time, isn't it? Any uppers make you feel, oh my god, I'm
the coolest place,
and I'm the coolest fucking person here doing the coolest thing, and then you see a video of yourself like, whoa. I look cracked out. But I felt like I was Scarface, so it's all good.
It's all good. It's a fun time. But it's taken me 2 days to get my electrolytes back. I need to wash my hair. There's like sweat and glitter and all kinds of fucking crap, fake vampire blood in my hair. I'm just gross. Okay?
You thought you were John Travolta and you actually bounced by the ounce.
Exactly. Big time. But yeah, I'll how long is the video? Can I post it on Discord?
Yeah, you should be able to. It's only like 10 seconds long or something like that.
Yeah, it's really embarrassing. But I'll post.
Join the Discord.
Join the Discord.
The sort of nuggets of behind the scenes that you get to see of the show.
Well, I hope everyone else had a good Halloween weekend. I don't know. Do some people do their Halloween things after the weekend after or before?
It's an awkward timing one this year because it's on it's Halloween this Thursday.
Yeah.
But
happy birthday to my Scorpios out there as well.
I think most events people go, oh, well, it's not Halloween if you don't do it in October. And it's the first weekend of November, technically. It's not really Halloween.
No.
But it's like Halloween still for like all the kids, because the kids are still going to want to go trick-or-treating and whatever on actual Halloween on Thursday night.
On Thursday night,
and there'll probably still be like school parties and whatever that would happen this week.
Do you think we should get candy?
No, because it's just not. It's not ever happened in the 10 years I've lived in London where
kids have come to like our door.
Yeah, it's just not kind of how it's done in the UK, to be honest.
It's either like a hedonistic adult holiday or like
that is all Halloween really is, and then like a teenage party to like have a party or whatever. But it's not really like it's a small kids thing, but not like it is in America, where there's this whole big hoo-ha. I
really like what they do in America. I think it's really beautiful, like driving through neighborhoods and seeing how everyone is like gone all out. And a few houses on our street have done, like, there's a guy across the street that has like Pennywise and Georgie outside of his door, and it's like a life-size Pennywise doll or whatever it is. And the other day, this kid who had like a yellow raincoat walked past it, and I was like, no.
He was like up to the fence looking at
Yeah,
it.
looking at it. I was like, no. He literally had like a yellow raincoat that looked exactly like Georgie, and it was the most surreal thing ever. But yeah, I don't know. I wish the UK had more Halloween festivities, like wholesome, because like in America they do haunted houses, like huge crazy haunted houses, and like there's all kinds of somewhat family friendly kind of things to do there.
I don't know, even like at Christmas and stuff, there's sort of very, very select like neighborhoods or places that really give a shit and like go all out with the whole like Christmas thing. But other than that, no, it's not really like a culture. There might be like a street in a town somewhere, and then someone post some TikToks about it, whatever. It is not like the
in America you
thing.
can like see people's houses from space and shit, like they go crazy there. It's insane. But yeah, hello everybody. Danny says looking forward to this one. Thank you. We have lots of fun topics planned for today. Jay George, hello, our loyal best viewer, thank you very much, and Sid too, we can't forget Sid,
and Greg.
Oh my god, Greg is here. Hi Greg. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, so diving in, I think we should start with the Joe Rogan Trump interview.
What a way to recover from a rave.
Yeah.
Mackie D's breakfast and Joe Rogan, Donald Trump fucking podcast.
That was what we did. That's
Bang.
Literally what we did.
It was great.
It was wonderful. It was
we were
really
still in like a pretty good mood, I guess.
Yeah, I was still kind of buzzing a little bit, I think. But I was still, I don't know, it kind of killed my vibe a little bit. It was a really kind of boring interview.
It wasn't as funny as I was hoping it would be, if I'm honest.
There weren't any like notable anecdotes from it, nothing particularly interesting, other than the fact that it actually happened in the first place. I mean, for years now, Joe Rogan has talked about not liking Trump. He's said he doesn't want to have him on his show, specifically because he said in his own words, he doesn't want to help Trump. He's called Trump a psychopath before. He, so many things. And then all of a sudden, he suddenly has him on. And I remember you were speculating that it may be to do with like losing the top spot as like top podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's had like a terrible stand-up special recently, and like
I don't even think he's aware of any of that. I think that was a gleaming like success in his eyes still. Like I don't even think that even comes into it.
You don't think he knows his stand-up special was shit? It's all everybody's been talking about.
He doesn't read any of that. And the only people that he's surrounded by are people that will lick his ass and tell him that it was great. And that's why he came back after doing it and being like, I want to do another one. That was awesome. And you're like, was it? Was it, Joseph? I'm not sure about that. But no, it's because his buddy Theo interviewed Trump before him. And I think he even went, he even then, you know, in terms of like what you would consider a big celebrity on the internet or an influencer or anything like that, like Joe Rogan is obviously the biggest podcast in terms of numbers and all the rest of it. Someone like Kai Cenat or Aiden Ross, who are like two younger demographic for sure, like internet celebrities, have both had Trump on before he's even gone on to these kind of older, people's podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
So it feels like he's playing like the internet game in a way that has not been done before. It's kind of unprecedented that you would have a running president going around the internet on loads of people's podcasts and stuff. Yeah. And I think there's actually kind of like a really, like, despite what you fucking think about Trump or whatever, that's a genuinely really good tactic.
I mean, I guess what I was thinking is like this election is going to be like a litmus test for just how much influence the internet has, because Kamala Harris has obviously gone the very conventional way with like, I mean, the DNC, you were saying it looks like Disney Plus interface. And she's sort of, relying on, conventional establishment media, being very scripted, whereas Trump has taken their sort of X.com approach, and is sort of like, really sort of using the energies of the internet to his advantage. And I mean, that was what got him elected the first time around. And I wonder if the same thing is going to play out in this case.
Well, there was also like really obvious signs of manipulation, right? Despite the Republicans or the right wing or whatever you want to call it, like using the internet fully to their advantage, despite it not even actually also being their domain. Like Google, all these other platforms like famously try to like hide or decentivize those videos in the algorithm. And this one guy I sort of was watching a thing on YouTube about it. He was like, this video was gaining 1 million views an hour on YouTube. It was the most viral video at least of the weekend, if not like the week. And it didn't even make it onto YouTube's trending page, despite him already watching half an hour of it. He had to go into his history to go and find it again because it wasn't just put on his homepage again when he went back to it and stuff like that. So despite all of that, it's still got like 32 million views. I think I saw.
This whole dialectic is a psyop, in my opinion, because on both sides is technocracy. Both parties are pushing technocracy, and both candidates have major technocratic powers behind them. So even the idea of like because the whole dissident media, dissident blah blah blah, it to me seems astroturfed, and also specifically for the purpose of pushing everybody who's sort of dissenting into one sort of like a algorithmic chicken pen, basically.
Maybe, like, I'm not entirely sure what it is, to be honest, because like that is what the whole push in the last couple of years with stuff like Rumble and Peter Thiel and all of his fucking like glowy tentacles and shit have been trying to like formulate these spaces owned by the right to serve that message, and no one's interested.
No, because it doesn't have the social capital that the other platforms
and not
have.
just that. You like there is something pretty democratic about having a place on the internet where you would upload videos like this that everybody has access to, free access to at the point of use or whatever, right? Like that.
But even with Rumble, they're not serious. The interface is terrible. And of course people say it will take time to work out things, blah, 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 blah. The interface isn't good. Like the discoverability, all of the things that YouTube provides, despite YouTube being notoriously censorious, are much better for somebody who's trying to run a political campaign, build a fucking platform, whatever the fuck it is you're doing. And right now it seems like, these metrics are going to always be a fixture within elections. I feel like now the American presidency is more about who's the best influencer. And I think if Trump wins, it proves that. Like it's all about who can be the best influencer. And Kamala Harris is trying to do it the old school kind of Obama GQ magazine way, and Trump is doing it by going on like fucking Kill Tony or whatever the fuck. And
not going on Kill Tony, but having Kill Tony open for him, or Tony Hinchcliffe. But I think
drop some anti-Puerto Rican.
The reason why I think it's an interesting tactic is not only is it that you do have to probably not be a politician to be able to go onto a podcast and not have a list of questions beforehand, and to be able to talk openly and freely until whatever your time is allocated or whatever the fuck it is. And I don't and he is very unique in the way that he's probably one of the only people in politics in general, globally, that could pull something like that off.
True.
Like even someone that like
Kamala Harris wouldn't be able to go on Joe Rogan, because like one of the first things he would probably ask her is, why didn't you tell people that Biden was senile? You know, it's different because Trump is the incumbent, number one, and he also, has this kind of anti-establishment veneer over him, whereas Kamala Harris is accountable in a way for all of the Democratic Party's machinations, so she can't really be open.
But just the very fact that he can be makes him instantly more relatable than Kamala Harris.
But I'm wondering is, do people really want relatable? That's why I'm saying that I think this election is going to be a litmus test. What's really going on is it's schizos versus normies. The internet versus the old sort of media format. That's kind of really, those are the forces I really see playing out in this election. And I think who wins is going to tell us a lot more about which force has more power.
Definitely.
I mean, even with Kamala Harris having Beyonce and at her rally recently, the Joe Rogan interview happened at the same time as the Beyonce speech at Kamala Harris's legacy. Right now, the entire of, Hollywood is embroiled in scandals. We're going to get to that later. The sort of establishment media is crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really get why she's hedging her bets there. It's
Well,
probably really a clever thing that Trump has started to, not that it's good, it shows how, you know, American politics is kind of a joke and has become cheapened, and it's about being an influencer. But he's playing the game right in that sense.
it's also, it feels just like what the Democrats are doing is kind of just like echo chamber campaigning, where everybody that's at a Kamala Harris rally, Beyonce gig, speech, whatever you want to fucking call it, is like already a pretty solid Democrat.
Yeah.
And like the pictures and videos of that are not going to sway anybody into voting for you.
Yeah.
It's going to serve as good, juicy content for people that are already your fans. And I think what Trump has basically been doing by going on all of these internet platforms and stuff is that there's going to be far much more
undecided kind of
undecided people that are not engaged with just that stuff, but might just see a random clip come up or whatever, and then can see him directly talking about this thing in just an open formatted podcast. It like instantly sends all of the kind of right things of, this is a guy who can talk, he's competent enough. This is very important at this stage as well, right? He's a guy that is competent enough to be able to talk for fucking ages about what he wants to fucking do and all this other kind of shit,
Joe Rogan
right?
himself. What do you think motivated him to break the seal on the Trump? Because I know there are some people speculating that perhaps he did it to embarrass Trump and make him look bad.
No, they had a great conversation. It was very cordial. Anybody that's saying that is like trying to spin their own fucking narrative and hasn't watched the thing. I haven't watched the whole thing. I only watched up until halfway when they started going on about UFC, because I found that all quite boring. If I'm
I was
honest.
Coming down off of stuff. I couldn't do it.
And then I saw the clip. I saw the clip in this other video I saw of summarizing it of the UFO questions, and it was a total nothing burger. So it's like, well, I'm not going back then. Basically, that was the only other juicy bit of questioning you could have given Trump that might have been really entertaining for me.
But even then, why? Back to the question: Why do you think Joe Rogan had this cordial interview with Trump after talking shit about him for years, and also saying he doesn't want to help him, he thinks he's a bad guy, all of this stuff? Like, why do you think Joe Rogan is now singing a different tune?
The thing is, over the years, you can probably get almost 50-50 amount of clips of him shit talking Trump, praising his comedic abilities, all of these other aspects of him.
But calling someone psycho, saying that you will never have them on because you don't, that's not something that's like,
and did he
small.
say,
and that this is a huge U-turn from that.
But he
said
he said all of that stuff when he was living in California. And his social circle was Californian liberals.
Yeah.
And in the last 4 years or whatever, he's now living in Texas.
I mean, are people that undifferentiated and that much of a guppy that they literally will adopt the social beliefs and values of like the state that they live in?
Well, half of his kind of thing as well, being in LA, I feel like there were a lot more actors and associated movie or industry people that went on his podcast
conforming
than there are now that he's in the middle of fucking nowhere where it's someone that he'll be like, oh yeah, Post Malone or someone that I have some sort of connection with or whatever will like have this fucking podcast. But it's like less that you get new guests and people that were like, from the industry, different industry, like movie or music or whatever. And you get less of that now because he's in Texas, I think. And then probably also the political turn as well. Yeah. And that's why he played the fucking game in the way that he did when he was in, in California. And Freddie is also just said a very good point in the chat there that Joe did basically put the fact that he's got Trump on down to Dana White.
Who's Dana White?
The owner of UFC. Because and that's also a point I was going to make, is that despite Joe like chatting shit about him, and as I said, you can get 50-50 clips of him praising him for one reason and chatting shit for him on a different reason. Despite all of that, they've got a lot of shared friends and stuff.
Mutual connections.
Dana White is like a very good friend of Trump, clearly.
What do you think?
And a very, very good friend of Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like inevitable that they would end up meeting and having like an actual sit-down conversation at some point, but I'm actually kind of surprised that it's taken this long, that it wouldn't be just like a dinner at some point or whatever.
But even then, what annoys me about this whole sort of dissident media fucking crowd, alternative media crowd, whatever you want to call it, is that, they are kind of like, unquestioning when it comes to Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And they were sort of cowered by all the censorship that was going on in 2020. And because of that sort of fear, that was the fear of God that was put into them by Google and, you know, YouTube and all of these different platforms, Twitter at the time before it was owned by Elon Musk, they've now decided to sort of ally themselves with this like technocratic agenda that is using the Trump campaign as like a Trojan horse. And I refuse to believe, because didn't you say that hasn't Joe Rogan had Whitney Webb on before?
No, not
or
Whitney,
he's
no.
mentioned Whitney Webb's articles during the Epstein thing.
Sure.
I refuse to believe that that Joe Rogan hasn't read any of her material on the sort of Peter Thiel network, JD Vance and Trump.
I don't think he's that well read, mate, if I'm honest.
He's not a stupid guy. I think they're all very much aware in this sort of space. They know where their bread is buttered. And I wouldn't be surprised if that had something to do with why he had Trump on. Like, he had Peter Thiel on not too long ago.
Very true.
And I'm pretty sure that the reason why he had Trump on has something to do with that. Maybe it is also to do with this Dana guy and his sort of UFC connection, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Trump thing definitely had some weird thing going on there.
Sid says Dana White is an actual despicable human being.
I don't know anything about this person, so I can't
spill the tea, sir.
Spill the tea, Sid, because I have no idea.
I have no idea about Dana White.
Yeah.
All I know is that he's hosted this Ultimate Fighting stuff for a good time, and a lot of people are a big fan of it. I'm not particularly a big fan of it. I do prefer boxing, if I'm honest. I think the UFC is just a little bit...
You're old school.
Yeah, it's just a bit too much. It's just like,
I haven't actually watched any UFC
out.
before. It's just not my... It's definitely not my thing. I've watched boxing when Jake is watching it.
And there's just too much to take into account for me to feel like I could put a bet on something. Do you know what I mean?
True.
Whereas you look at a couple of guys and you're like, all right, I mean, yeah, within these rules or whatever, this heavyweight, this belt, whatever, I can make this assumption. But like with kicking power and all sorts of shit that you could just pull out of nowhere with fucking UFC, it's like, I don't fucking know. I don't want to bet. No, it's not fun. So fuck you. Like,
if someone says,
Trump gave the first UFC licensing deals in the beginning when nobody would.
Yeah, I heard about. He said that on the show. And he was sort of. I remember the joke that Dave Chappelle made once, where he was talking about how. When Trump was debating Hillary Clinton back in 2016, Hillary Clinton was like, you don't pay your taxes. And he was like, yeah, neither did any of your mates because of the laws that you put in place or whatever. Mm-hmm. And how he was kind of like being like, yeah, everything's corrupt and I've taken advantage of that corruption and I'm an insider. I know the truth. And Dave Chappelle said that from that moment on, a quote unquote star was born. Mm-hmm. And I think during that whole interview, he was sort of trying to reinforce this idea that he's an insider who's on the side of the outsiders, and that his experience in business and XYZ will somehow help the American people. It was very incoherent and like.
Or I think it was actually, I can't remember if it was on this podcast or on a different thing that I saw him on, but it was they got kind of talking about him building these huge things in New York, these huge buildings in New York, or whatever. And so I think the thing that he kind of like sees a lot is like people that will just
do corruption
to get extra money and all this kind of stuff. He's not against
the corruption in principle.
No, he knows how to navigate it. He knows how to navigate it.
But he's not against it in principle. And then when the problem,
he's not against it in principle.
And none of them are. I'm not saying any politician is, but he's so brazen about the fact that he's not.
I think it's more. I know that I just have to deal with this in order to get X completed or X done, and so I will do the thing to get the thing done. And I think like at a certain point, like you do need to have someone that is going to be like, we need to stop this stuff.
For sure.
And who is going to run on a corruption ticket, like when they're politicians and they're both so guilty of all the corruption and stuff. And so he was kind of like weirdly able to come from the outside, but also be one of the two major parties. So it's sort of like, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's kind of cognitive dissonance to some extent, but I think his charisma and the way he kind of pitches his own story sells it enough.
Yeah, but to people who are under the egregore.
Yeah, I mean,
like so many people in America has too many egregores working So it's like when you're talking to certain Americans, and no offense to anybody, you're not talking to flesh and blood, okay? You wrestle not against flesh and blood. And like this election egregore, this two-party system egregore, like it's so strong.
Yeah.
It's so fucking...
Not even that. Like I remember, I think I saw a clip of, who was it, Alex Stein, talking to Jimmy Dore about like, oh, I'm anti-war. That this is like my principle. Lol. Alex Stein has no principles, but like, come on, like. This is my principle is that I'm anti-war, but my struggle is that Trump is gonna go to war with like whoever the fuck. But I will vote for Trump anyway. Does that make me a bad person or whatever? Is kind of the question, or like, how he was trying to phrase it, or like kind of pose
philosophical knots over fucking bullshit. Like
no, but it was sort
voting.
of it's sort of just like, but if you okay, but then why just not vote then? If you if you can't find someone that aligns with your first principle of I'm anti-war and I don't want to go to war and I don't want Americans to go to war or waste money on war or whatever the pitch is on your anti-war thing.
We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Like George says, this country ain't real. I'm the plain lady right now. I'm saying it's not real. We wrestle not against flesh and blood when it comes to Americans. When it comes to their politics and their elections, just nod. Just nod and be like, because there's just like no fucking point.
He has done, okay, so this is about Dana White, Sid spilling the tea. He has done multiple hostile takeovers of other fight outfits, so I guess like smaller versions of the UFC or something equivalent to that, I would imagine.
He horrifically underpays the fighters while he's a near billionaire. Wow.
I mean, I don't know. That's kind of
Is he like another Vince McMahon situation?
It does sound a little bit. I don't know about Vince McMahon either, dude. I want to watch that documentary. You know what I mean? Like maybe
you liked him. He's a crazy bad man, and he did molesting as well.
He did. Okay,
he did lots of molesting.
I thought he just did like some fraud or something. Like, you know, did some fraud and like made away with a couple extra $1 million or something.
Straight up molested people. So.
I mean that's not great.
Well, someone says. Danny says. Speaking of JD Vance, he was on Tim Dillon the same time Trump was on. Yeah. I mean, Tim Dillon is also part of that whole Thiel network as well. And even though I agree with some of the stuff he says, I always kind of have to factor that in mind. You know, he's part of that whole machine and that whole system. So it doesn't surprise me that he had JD Vance on. He had Curtis Yarvin. He's had a lot of really like stupid.
But that was like unlistenable.
People.
That was unlistenable.
Yeah.
Like
it trolling? I wanted to believe it was trolling, but again, he's like friends with all of those people and like hangs out in all these like weird goblin-y
I can't imagine for a moment that was some sort of Death Grips level like troll. That podcast, okay? And like I'm not someone that's inculcated in these spaces or even knew who this fucking guy was. So I was kind of
just like another fake Nick Land.
Don't take this the wrong way. I was interested in what he had to say or like how he was going to present whatever he was trying to fucking sell,
gibberish.
Right? And so I did want to like tune into that Tim Dillon episode to kind of get an understanding of this. And I couldn't listen for, I think it was 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
I just like, it was unbearable. Just the way he holds conversation.
He's a demon. Because he's a literal fucking demon. That's the reason why.
It was making my brain do the opposite of hemisync.
If the fucking Jake's brain unhemisynced. It unhemisynced itself as soon. No, he's like a literal demon. And many of these people are, not all of them are, many of them are disgruntled dissidents who were sort of cowed by the specter of censorship in 2020. And I get that because I was in that camp as well. But they're like not necessarily woke to what's going on behind the scenes. But there are ones that know what the fuck is going on in that whole thing and just don't care because it benefits them. Same thing with the Democrats, but we already know what the Democrats' issues are. I just don't want people to like come away thinking that the Trump campaign is a fucking solution.
But don't you think that's interesting though, that like the big tech is still liberally owned, or however you describe it, right? Like in that way.
Because the dialectic is fake.
No, but then
the dialectic is fake.
So you just think it's just straight fake?
It's straight fake. Psyopery fucking.
But then why would they suppress the video?
Because it gets people riled up.
By them suppressing
it gets people riled up. The dialectic is fake and it's playing on people's emotions and all sorts of things.
Sorry, I think my point...
And I saw how this journalists and people got riled up in 2020 and how many of them fell down into the Peter Thiel sort of milieu or whatever. You know, it's all about getting people riled up, getting their emotions high so that they can be led into these chicken pens, these algorithmic digital fucking chicken pens. The dialectic is fucking fake. All these people are rubbing shoulders with each other behind the scenes, greasing each other's fucking palms. Like, if you still believe in this shit, you're not gonna make it. You're literally not gonna make it. Divorce yourself from the egregore. Fucking divorce yourself from the egregore before it eats you.
What I meant was, like, if it's sort of liberally owned, is there just like a messaging or communication like breakdown between that set of elites and the Democratic Party that, hey, you should be using this stuff. We own all this stuff and we've set all this stuff up so you can fucking do this. And look, he's just coming in and going on KSI and doing all this crazy, or like, well, not KSI, going on Logan Paul and all this crazy shit. And what are you doing? We've built all this stuff for you, and you're not using it. Like, what the fuck? No one cares about CNN, and like, you know, why are you not doing this? Do you think that that's just like a breakdown between like different, like the same section of the elite? They are on the same side, but they're not. Like, we're working together, and instead Trump and like the right that are not really a part of that team or publicly or however you describe it are using the infrastructure
the Typhonian current. For those of you who watched my latest video, they're using the sort of the energies of the internet in order to command the zeitgeist, whereas the sort of Democratic wing are using the establishment media, celebrities, these old paradigms that are now sort of falling. I mean, looking at Beyonce, she looks so scared and so out of place and so weird. With the whole Diddy shit going on, everybody's giving these people the side eye at this point. It's not like they don't seem to understand how to use these energies, or that the US presidency is now about who can be the best influencer.
And I think the way that, because all of these choices do kind of still say something, even if not overtly, right?
Yeah.
The fact that Trump has a team of people that would pick JD Vance, that would utilize all of these podcasts and the internet and new technology of like reaching people and like appearing more relatable and all this stuff. And seemingly the other side's team and their choices is to not do any of that and actually have like the complete fucking polar opposite of it. And is it just to do that as a contrarian kind of, we can't do that because that's what Trump's doing, or is it genuinely that she's also surrounded herself with incompetent people that seemingly make incompetent choices? I think it's
probably a bit of both. I honestly think it's probably a bit of both.
If anyone's media savvy, I think they're also seeing this, and that's kind of a red flag in itself.
Yeah, but AOC was the only sort of Trumpian candidate in the Democratic Party in the fact that she knew how to use the energies of social media to her advantage. I mean, she's calmed down a lot now since the fucking Eat the Rich dress or whatever, but there was a streak there where she was like going on podcasts and going on fucking bread tube streamers and doing all this sort of media stuff, and she seems to be the only one in the Democratic Party that like knows how to tap into those energies in a very Trumpian fashion. Trump on the other hand is like, an expert at this. He's so good at it. He's so good at it.
It's natural to him.
It is literally natural. He's so good at it. He's so fucking good at it. Amadan says Angie is right. Yarvin talks a lot about how fake it is. I think he's finally at the point in his career where he benefits from it. Yeah, pretty much.
What career does he have?
I don't even know it. He was a tech guy, and like,
in what fashion?
I don't know. He's some fucking tech nepo child or whatever. It's just a goblin from hell. I don't know where they crawl out from. And the thing that irritates me is that they think they're so smart. And then when you get to the crux of what they actually believe, it's like the most incoherent, basic nonsense ever.
He sounded like a bumbling retard that fancies himself a philosopher.
Yes, that is precisely that's the best way to describe him. And he's so ugly too. Like, he literally looks like a troll.
It's not even a face for radio.
It's not a face for radio. It's not a face for podcasts. It's not a face for a mother. Nothing. It's so... I don't understand why they literally look like things that crawled out of Innsmouth. Like, it's actually frightening. And we're going to get to the Abercrombie and Fitch guy in a minute. There's a motif in the way these people look. Like, it's frightening. It's actually frightening.
Danny said, I heard people left the rally because they told everyone Beyonce would perform when she was really just giving a speech off a prompter. Well, I mean, it would need to be off a prompter. Have you heard her speak in an interview?
Yeah.
It's like pretty...
She's been dancing her whole life and not doing any book learning, and it's quite obvious. So
she watches over me every day at work. Is pretty cute. There's this massive picture of her in the little office that I work in, and
George says, when you're ugly you got to stand the demiurge even harder. I know. Even Nick Land, it's like, yo, what have you done? Have you seen pictures of him recently?
No,
they all look like fucking goblins. It's literally. It literally makes me believe that the state of the soul is represented in the face eventually. Like after you age and all the evil and bitterness, like it just kind of, it seeps out. And they all look like they're degenerating from the inside. It's horrible.
Well, I feel like it's happened to Obama as well.
Yeah, like Obama's also
in the 8 years that he was president. Like, there's loads of like people that have done photos of like after their first term, and like
it was
seeing
when he drank the Flint, Michigan water. Dude.
So much people aged after just their first term, and you see that for Obama, and it's like fucking nothing. It's like water off a duck's back. He's like not even changed, and even at the end of his 8 years, he doesn't really look that much different. But then just over like 4 years of Trump being in power, he's like, I don't know if he's just been pulling his hair out with like Trump derangement syndrome for the entire time or whatever. But like he looks way more.
Looks gaunt,
he looks aged way more in the last like 4 or 5 years
giving,
than he has in
Abraham Lincoln. Like he's looking really hollow in the face. You know, you think that he would be eating good and like chilling, but he's not. He looks like he's really like run ragged, and it may very well be Trump derangement syndrome for sure.
I feel like he's lost a lot of it in the sort of clips I've seen of him talking at the Democratic conventions and the rallies and stuff for Kamala. I mean, this guy was rated basically as the greatest orator of the 21st century so far, and like one of the best American speakers ever. And now you look at him and it's just like, really was he like I mean, it's been a while, and I guess it's not like, you know, LeBron James where he can just stay at the top of the game for 20 years or whatever, but it's still really like, it's not been that long, dude, and you can't knock one out just to like help. It's democracy's at stake apparently. Yeah. So I mean, you got to knock a great speech out to fucking help your buddy. Dude. Like it feels like that's either just like low effort or like you. I don't know what it was. Maybe
like,
you had
like
a great.
Like I said though, I think this is gonna be this election is gonna be a litmus test for which format is truly winning. If the internet is the new frontier, or if the establishment media still has some juice left in it. So we'll have to see. But we should move on to our next topic, which is a really strange and crazy and sad AI story that I saw this week that I wanted to talk about. I won't like give any context because the video does, but yeah, let's show the video.
It's just play the first minute of it.
Yeah. It's to do with a company called Character AI. And I'm not a teen, so I have no idea what this thing is, but apparently it's been really popular among teens. And yeah, you'll see in a second. Hang on.
Overnight, a mother from Florida filed a lawsuit against the artificial intelligence company Character AI and Google. In February, Megan Garcia's 14-year-old son, that's Sewell Setzer III on your screen, died by suicide. She says that Sewell was in a months-long virtual emotional and sexual relationship with a chatbot known as Danny. Garcia claims the Character AI chatbot encouraged Sewell to take his own life. In the suit, Garcia also claims Character AI intentionally designed their product to be hypersexualized and knowingly marketed it to minors. Before we begin, we must let you know that if you are in crisis, you can text to 988 the suicide.
And then go to the...
Working with Megan to get the story out, and this is also part of your business too. But Megan, I just want to say, number one, I'm so glad you're here, but so sorry you're here. This happened in February, so this is very, very fresh for you.
Yes, it is. Thank you for having me.
I'm just going to pause there. We'll chat about it because this is.
No, I wanted to talk. Oh. Just wait.
But Lori, you set the table for us first, because to be honest with you, I had never even heard of Character AI until yesterday in the meeting. We've all heard of chatbots,
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm alone. I was asking people when I knew we were doing this segment, and they said, do you mean ChatGPT? Do you
Sure.
mean? It was like, no, character AI. What is that?
Well,
exactly?
I think part of the reason you haven't heard of it, and a lot of parents haven't heard of it, is a lot of young people are on this platform. A lot of teenagers. One of their biggest age demographics is between the ages of 13 to 25. Imagine character AI is like an AI fantasy platform where you can go and have a conversation with some of your favorite characters, or you can create your own characters. And a lot of teenagers are doing this. And what I would say about it is it's a very immersive, highly personalized experience where these chatbots are always on. They get to know you. Oftentimes they're modeled after your favorite characters. Mm-hmm. And you can almost live in a story and you're the star of that story.
And you're having conversations with these chatbots.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the kids know they're talking to a chatbot, right?
Yeah, there's a disclaimer at the bottom that says, or at the top, depending, that says everything these characters say is made up. Now, what gets a little confusing and murky, we've been testing it out.
It's crazy.
Cool.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
It's a really sad story. Just to fill it in, I mean, the kid is 14 years old. He unfortunately, offed himself because he was talking to a Daenerys Targaryen chatbot that he had a sexual and romantic relationship with. So basically a chatbot groomed a 14-year-old child.
Yeah.
How that is happening, is insane. How that's being how that they're being allowed to do that. And it also reminds me of another story early last year. I think it was either Italy or France that banned what's it called? A different chatbot AI company, but specifically because they were harvesting the data of young children, and they also said it was having adverse effects on their mental health. So the French government actually stepped in, did what you're supposed to do as a society, legislate to protect the vulnerable. But I don't know, America is so laissez-faire that this is just allowed to happen.
Well, it is interesting
It's
because
insane.
I mean, it's not just say the company that's liable for something like this, right?
100%. If you can't make chatbots with that can be made for any character that kids are attracted to, specifically market it towards kids, and also allow it to have romantic and sexual connotations. That's insane.
What I mean by that is both that the only way you're going to get that app is via downloading it from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store.
Yeah.
And so, if that app had sexually explicit, and that was obvious,
It's not obvious. It's marketed towards kids. It's called character AI. And that's the reason why the mother is suing. It's called character AI. It has a bunch of characters that kids like and all sorts of things. And it also gives the option for a sort of parasocial sexual relationship. And this young boy was clearly very troubled. I mean, and not to say the parents aren't culpable or that the parents don't have any say or control, but as a society, we should have rules, laws, and regulations that protect kids so that you don't have to be watching every single fucking thing they do.
Absolutely.
I think it's a really individualistic argument to just blame the mother.
No. It's to actually say these tech companies should be doing more thorough checks on these apps that go onto the stores, because there are not versions of whatever, but there are certain apps that are obviously adult themed or whatever it is, and if you have an account that's connected to that store that is not above the age of whatever, it won't let you download it. It's kind of as simple as that, right? But if you're either masking it in its application into the app store or however you're doing it to kind of get past that process, I think there is still a decent amount of due diligence on companies as big and rich as Google and Apple to do thorough checks on all apps and stuff and how they're used before and the way that
and
they're
age
verified.
Restrictions as well.
Yeah, and that's part of figuring out what age restrictions should be included in the listing of this on the App Store and all of that kind of thing, so that you don't get this kind of thing that happens. And to be honest, I think you're absolutely right. It is a very individualistic thing to just blame the mother. It's sick that this company made this thing and targeted it and marketed it towards children and whatever the fuck. That's fucking gross. One red flag that she did fucking say was that basically after a year of him feeling distant or his behavior changing or whatever, she still hadn't checked his phone. Only after the horrible event happens, she goes and investigates his phone and discovers all of this stuff. And it's a little bit like, That's a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, that's a 14-year-old boy with a fucking smartphone.
But in terms,
like in 2024, dude. Like that. There's, I mean, what level do you have to kind of think? At least maybe once a month, I should go through my child's phone and make sure that
millennials and Gen X. There were literal ads on American TV that were like, "It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are?"
But
in
this
the
is
80s.
the equivalent.
Because parents let their kids run wild and were feral. Our parents were working. We were latchkey kids.
I know, but this is the equivalent.
But it's worse because there's literal demons in the fucking screen.
Yes, exactly.
And someone just asked. Someone just asked.
But it is the exact equivalent.
The same
Instead of the ad going, "Oh, where are your children at 10 p.m.?" it should be going, "What's on your fucking child's iPad? Look at your YouTube history. Like, you know, look at what they're looking at. Look at what they're doing.
Fuck. And
talk to them about it.
Demonic forces that will eat your children." Amadan just asked what I think about this thing on an archetypal level. This is the digital anima. The devouring mother just ate this little boy. This shit is dangerous. This shit is real and it's fucking dangerous. The devouring mother, the digital anima, ate this boy. She ate him and she's going to eat a lot of people. We're dealing with a deluge of crazy shit, unprecedented shit and unprecedented problems. I mean, as much as I the mother had some issues and some oversight, this is unprecedented. What mother ever thinks that she's going to have to think about her child getting groomed by a Daenerys chatbot?
I think
like,
that
what fuck?
You would still be looking through any messaging that your child's receiving on a fucking device to be making sure that it's their buddies from class, and that's it, right? Like, anything else is kind of inappropriate.
Yeah.
At 14. Anything below that, it's like totally inappropriate for them to be talking to anybody else other than someone verifiably their own age or someone that's local to them, but just through the internet. And and you should be checking for stuff like that as a parent. Like, there was certainly the excuse when I was a kid, because all of this stuff was totally new. Internet communication, all of this stuff was totally new. There was no fucking documentaries and all the horrible ways in which pedophiles and all sorts of other things are using various messaging formats and all sorts of things,
like Roblox and stuff.
Exactly. So that's my point.
This
you don't
is
have
like
to.
Disturbing
you don't
stuff.
have. You don't
it's
have.
Fucking disturbing.
But that's exactly my point. Roblox. You don't even have to think, oh, an AI chatbot or whatever. You would think, I need to check what they've got access to in general, because you don't know what it fucking could be. And then you check that stuff. I think the fact that, it's not all her fault for sure. I'm not trying to say it's all her fault, whatever. There's absolutely culpability, at least 40 to 50% with the company. I would say 40% with the mother, and then maybe arguably 10% dished out with the app stores and people like that also aren't doing enough due diligence to make sure that this stuff isn't reaching the eyes and ears of children, because it's fucking insane.
And even if you look at the conversations with the chatbot that he was having, it's fucking disturbing. It's incredibly disturbing what this thing was saying to him. I'm actually like, I was shook to the bone by this story. I'm legitimate shook. And it also makes me worried about like the sorts of things that future parents are going to have to, contend with, unprecedented things. And on top of that, parents are working. Part of the reason why we were latchkey kids is because it was a time where both parents were expected to work, or both parents had to work in order to provide a decent income for a decent standard of living for the family. And if you're working and you're doing all this stuff, you don't necessarily have the time or energy to monitor every little thing your child does. But we live the whole like Margaret Thatcher, there's no such thing as a society ethos is so prevalent now that we're allowing these corporations to pretty much do whatever the fuck they want. And then people will turn around and blame you if something happens. But we don't have a society. If we had a society, there would be heavy regulation on this stuff. We would not be allowing AI companies to fucking market grooming chatbots to fucking children and then blaming parents who are tired and working and all of this stuff and saying it's your fault. You should have been watching your kids every fucking move. I don't know. If I had a 14-year-old...
It's not every move. It's not every move. It's you should be doing due diligence
I understand,
on the
but
digital
it's also
devices
weird.
Of your children.
I get it, but it's also weird when
least...
when you have a 14-year-old to go through their shit.
Sorry, it's part of the
I don't want to
gross...
see their porn history.
Well, it's part of
If
the
it's like
gross.
a-
It's part of the gross shit about that.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to, like, unfortunately.
I mean, yeah.
And it's not. You don't need to go through their fucking porn history, but you need to go through the apps that are installed and go, oh, what's this character thing? This is a new thing. Let's open this up and have a look. Let's see the messages he's been saying on here. Who's he talking to?
Yeah.
Oh, this is a new app. Let's see what this is. And it's
Yeah.
like literally, you do that once a month when fucking Billy's at his swimming lesson or whatever the fuck, and he's
Yeah.
not demanding his fucking little device.
Yeah.
You go through all of that shit and make sure it's all fucking kosher.
I agree.
It's really not like, oh, I need to look at every single message that he's ever receiving and be like completely on it. But there is a very reasonable amount of due diligence that this woman didn't do.
I agree with you. I do agree with you, but it's a thing that's unprecedented and is not something that any parent of now would expect to occur for their child to form a parasocial relationship with a chatbot and
Well, hey,
it
even
convinces them to fucking off themselves. That's insane.
little throwback. Trump basically admitted that he has a parasocial relationship with Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, he did. Didn't he? He did.
I'm one of your scholars, I think was a quote
Yeah, it
from
was
it.
a quote from
and then
him. He was like,
the weirdest,
sucking his
the,
dick.
the weirdest
So
slash
weird. It was so fucking
the
weird.
weirdest slash funniest one of that was you won't believe this, but I've watched you so much. I know you probably better than your wife, or as
he was
well
like
as your wife,
really,
or something like that, right?
Deep throating, just deep throating.
But that's my kind of point, right? I feel like this sort of parasocial relationship thing, unless you're very kind of like cognizant of it and
Yeah.
you're sort of really, like an information diet or just being kind of a bit extracted from your own experience of just consuming this stuff and watching videos and whatever and being a little bit like aware about, the sorts of pipelines you're getting dragged into and all that kind of shit,
loneliness
right?
and isolation become more prevalent, parasociality spreads, and everyone kind of becomes a bit of an erotomaniac. If you connect with someone or you like what they do, or you're talking to a chatbot that seems to be somewhat fulfilling emotionally, people form like these really intense like emotional attachments, and especially when they're young. That's the thing that worries me about this, is that the children, the babies, are not mentally developed enough to handle the deluge. And even their parents don't even know that this deluge is coming. Their parents aren't prepared for the deluge. It frightens me
I don't
a
know.
lot.
I'm sort of trying to compare it to sort of things that were in any way parallel to when I was growing up. And I think like you form a parasocial relationship basically from overwatching someone. From seeing them every day on a screen or something like that, basically. And this is how you can kind of get that sense of, I know you better than your wife, or whatever like mad thing is going on in your head, right? You can kind of build
Poor
this.
Trump.
You can build this character of this person the more you watch them in your head, and you can then think about how they would react to you and how you would relate to them in real life. And this is like a natural thing that your brain is going to do.
Yeah, of course.
I think
Yeah,
it's not
it's
something
very
that is
human.
like, oh, whatever, but it is like a, monkey brain thing.
Yeah.
Like we can't help it. So you kind of got to be a bit of aware about it.
You have to be aware of it, you know.
And,
the only people you're allowed to form parasocial relationships are us, though. You're allowed to do that. And we have met some of our viewers in real life. We've met Kelso, and I'm pretty sure if you ask them what you see is what you get. So I'm pretty sure, what you see is what you get. So
Sid says it's like the horror that inspired Nightmare on Elm Street, but for late stage technocratic dystopia.
I know it's he got eaten by the digital anima. This is a real life horror story. It's real life horror story.
Danny brings up a good point as well that I was a little bit umming about, if I'm completely honest, where the chat logs before he died of the boy telling him that they'd be together if he died, calling it coming home.
Yeah,
really disturbing.
Where
actually, I'm gonna stipulate
he wanted to
on that.
escape into the digital realm, which is why he
I understand.
It's fucking wild.
So
dude.
that part of it I understand, but I think the framing of it that this chatbot told him to kill himself, I think is kind of unfaithful, if I'm totally honest.
No.
Because what he didn't even say that. I think he said, what if I could come home to you?
Yeah.
Or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And this is this is a computer playing a character or whatever. It's kind of assuming probably some amount of RPing within this situation,
but if someone
or this
expresses
conversation.
suicidal ideation,
I don't think that necessarily does.
Yeah.
Doesn't.
No,
Me saying,
no, yeah.
can I come home to you?
Yeah.
shows no suicidal
Yeah.
ideation or anything like that whatsoever.
No.
That is very metaphorical. And to sort of then totally extrapolate it to this fucking chatbot literally told this kid to go and kill himself and he'll join me in digital heaven or whatever. It's like, hold the fucking phone. That's not at all
but
what
the sort
happened.
of the
It was very metaphorical, and
I understand what you're saying, but
exactly
like when
that.
very sort of troubled or disturbed people form parasocial relationships, you know, they can project and with a chatbot, it's dangerous because they can project their sort of illusions onto this chatbot without any pushback whatsoever. Whereas if you tried to do that, like before, like an erotomaniac, like I don't know, like the Bjork stalker, for instance, he was getting pushback from the universe for his like repeated attempts to contact and stalk and harass. Whereas with a chatbot, your craziness is encouraged. If I don't know, say like a celebrity met a fan and the fan said something similar to them, that person would probably say get help, lead them towards some sort of resource or whatever. You know, when it's a chatbot, you're literally in your own like walled garden, your own kind of folie à deux, shared fantasy with like a machine, and it's being constantly reinforced. There's nothing challenging it, there's no reality to challenge it, and I think that's incredibly psychologically dangerous, especially if you have some kind of pre-existing mental health issue.
Which it didn't sound like this kid did at all. It sounded
You
like
never know. You never know.
Well, no, from what they said, like he was
clearly did. He started to withdraw. He started to isolate himself.
After he started chatting this thing, but the pre-existing whatever the fuck, like there was the only thing that was pre-existing from the story that gets revealed in that was that he was very high-functioning Asperger's from 5 years old or whatever. But you wouldn't be able to tell him that he was a totally normal kid and actually a varsity athlete and like whatever else, right?
But he did have. I think he had autism. I think he was.
No, but high functioning to the point where you wouldn't.
But even
tell
then,
or whatever,
that's what I'm
right?
saying
like,
is even he was high functioning. But even then, any little thing like that could be what becomes somebody who has that disorder stumbling block. Unless they're watched. And if his mother knew this about him, she should have been more vigilant. I agree.
Exactly, right.
But even then, the app should have safeguards for this.
Absolutely. I don't think that there is like I think everyone failed this kid basically.
Yeah.
It's like
Society failed this kid. His mother failed him.
No one thing is wrong.
The tech companies that created this fucking software failed him.
Yeah.
If I was Emilia Clarke, I would feel so horrible because you can see her face as Daenerys in the chatbot.
That's crazy.
And she has no control over that. That's her image that like is now being used by this AI company.
That must.
I would
be some
I would feel
amount
so
of,
sick. I would feel so sick. I'm not saying it's her fault, but I'm just saying if it was me,
As in,
I would feel some type of way about it.
There must. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, it's called Dany. It's not called Daenerys, and there's probably enough like it's like differences, like spot the difference or whatever, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you could barely not tell, but legally it's like not the character.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine like that they can actually have like Bluey or like whatever characters that are actually on this thing with the same name and like actually look exactly like the character.
Yeah.
Because that is gonna be like a
whole
copyright
other
nightmare.
But
and I
you
can't
never know. Some of
imagine
them
that-
could get IPs and all of that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure that that's where it's going to go eventually. And that really scares me a lot. This was an insane story.
It was.
It hasn't been covered as much as I hoped it would have been, but I'm pretty sure, like I said, the floodgates are open and we're going to see a lot more.
Mum should sue the company.
She is
So
suing. She's currently suing, isn't she?
She is, but
like that lady next to her was her lawyer, right?
Yeah. Oh no, she wasn't. She worked for the
sorry.
show to like understand the. You knocked my Gundam over.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I committed the cardinal sin. I knocked over Jake's Gundam.
The cardinal sin is knocking over the what's it? My what are they called?
The onsen animals.
My onsen animals.
He's got these little onsen creatures on his
Look, it's my little. It's Naboo, but he's been in the onsen with his little hat on. It's great.
Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the mom should sue. I think she's in the process of suing right now, but it may be a kind of a difficult case. I mean, we'll see. But I agree that she should sue for sure.
I can see all the sort of dirty fucking tricks that the company would fucking levy at someone to get out of not paying that money.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
there's not a situation in which any one person or factor of this is wholly culpable and responsible. And to try to imagine, and I know you're going to be in whatever pain from losing your kid and stuff, but to imagine that you're going to get some kind of crazy payout for this, like, I'm not sure. I wouldn't hold your breath.
Sad. Really, really sad. Really, really fucking sad. But yeah, let's move on to our last story for the evening, which is the Abercrombie and Fitch scandal.
Fill me in on this one, because I don't know about this at all. I didn't know about any of the history that you was telling me. I just knew that all of the preppy arseholes at my school used to wear that clothes, and I hated that brand for the association of douchebags that would wear all of them clothes everywhere. So
We
please
were at the
enlighten
tail
me.
end of the Abercrombie and Fitch craze because it started in the 90s. And
It was Jack Willsmore, really, wasn't it, for the UK?
yeah, for the UK, it was Jack
fucking-
Wills, which is like, oh, I know.
Oh my
I know.
god.
Well, it was like 90s, 2000s. They sort of had these risque ad campaigns with like muscular, scantily clad dudes and women. Also they had like some weird like discriminatory policies in their stores. I remember when I was in high school in America, there was this girl in my class who worked there and she was like super proud of it. It was like the biggest accomplishment ever. Like before kids could be streamers, working at Abercrombie and Fitch was like the thing because it meant that you were pretty and skinny basically because they would
Right.
only hire you if you had a certain BMI and if you like looked a certain way. And they didn't like black people as well. They got there were several racial
Understandable.
lawsuits. No blacks.
Didn't want them bringing their stinky food into the shops.
Oh my
and,
god,
like, you know.
Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you? Yeah, they did like the blacks. They liked like the racially ambiguous Benetton black, like looking.
I bet they loved the
Black
vitiligo
people.
ones.
No, the vitiligo one.
Or is that a later phase?
That's a later phase.
Right, okay.
That's a much later phase. But they sort of like they would go caramel, you know, Beyonce colored, no further.
like cafe caramel, like kissed.
Yeah, literally.
Not even.
Not even.
Barely.
Not one kink in the hair. Either. Not one kink. But yeah, it was weird and super elitist and just cringy but it really was a status symbol. I remember kids would bring their lunches to school when I was in high school in America in Abercrombie and Fitch bags, like the bags from the store, to be like, look, I shop there. I can shop there.
What about the lunchbox? Has it got their lunchbox
No,
in it? Or
no,
that's their lunchbox.
That's their lunchbox.
Is the paper bag?
The paper bag was what they used to bring their lunch to school in of the Abercrombie and Fitch, as like a status thing. And then all
What
the
do you let people get away with in America?
I know, it's fucking weird, dude.
In the
Going to high
UK, you would
school
get
there
the
was
shit
shit
ripped out
kicked
of
out
you
of
if
you.
someone.
I know,
No,
literally.
not kicks. It's not going to be like physical violence. but
Sometimes it is. You didn't go to school in London,
you
dude.
you people are going to be like, what are you doing? You look like a bellend. Like, no one cares. No one cares where you fucking
No, America's
shop.
a completely different ball game, dude. Like it's, and especially high school there, it's fucking weird.
When else in your life are you going to get to have like a fucking cool little fucking lunchbox with your favorite character on it, dude? And you're
Nah.
going to go to school with a fucking
Muscly,
Abercrombie
like a
and
weird
Fitch
Another weird thing about
status thingy.
Another weird thing about Abercrombie and Fitch is that a lot of male actors got their start as Abercrombie and Fitch models.
I didn't know this. This was interesting.
Ashton Kutcher did. Channing Tatum did. We can Google it. There's a lot more, but a lot of male models sort of got their start in modeling and in the entertainment industry by being scouted by Abercrombie and Fitch. And now, obviously, it's come out that the CEO, who looks like a demon, who looks like a total goblin, we'll show you a picture of it in a minute, has been accused of sex trafficking and sexual assault. And this has been going on for years. I'm not surprised at all. He has ties to Les Wexner as well, which is pretty interesting. Victoria's Secret also has ties to Lex Wexner, and there's been scandals there. It seems like a lot of the mall brands from that period were used as fronts to do all kinds of shady shit, allegedly.
Google's not helping me with figuring out Abercrombie and Fitch actors because it's just lumping all the people that have modeled
Ask
for.
Claude. Ask Claude.
Ask Claude. I can't. My phone's up there.
Oh no, fuck.
Oh wait, no, I've on the website.
Yeah, but like a lot of actors got their start with Abercrombie and Fitch and all of these things. And really what I see here was this man, this ugly, demonic looking freak of a creature, sort of preying on the aspirations and desires of like American young people in order to take advantage of them. And it's ironic because there are lots of different scandals that have happened in the fashion industry. Like Alexander Wang is another person who was accused of sexual assault. And it seems as if these really ugly people, really insecure people like Harvey Weinstein, people like Diddy. I think Diddy's ugly. I mean, he has a weird shaped head. But I feel like when they get
he's not an ugly dude.
No, I think he's
not
ugly.
Like,
I honestly think he's one of the most unattractive people I've ever seen. But these people are unattractive, and I feel like when they get into positions of power, they want to sort of take out revenge on what they deem as attractive people.
Do you want me to smack?
Especially this guy. If I show you how the Abercrombie and Fitch CEO looks, it's actually shocking that this guy would be discriminating against anybody.
Does he also have an egg penis?
What do you mean by that?
Isn't that one of the revelations from the Harvey Weinstein case?
Oh, that he has an egg-shaped penis.
He has an egg
Oh
penis.
my god! You have to read.
So you can't just look like a walrus, but you also have to have like a really malformed cock as well.
Notice the motif. They are all like really malformed, ugly human beings, and they sort of surround themselves with beautiful people. But they also understand that they wouldn't get access to those beautiful people unless they had their status or prestige. This makes them resentful, and they then decide to like, you know, take out their fucking revenge fantasies on these people. It's really sick and really twisted.
All right, I got a little list.
Okay, go on then.
Some of them are surprises. Some of them I don't know who the fuck they are. Jennifer Lawrence,
No surprise.
modelled for Abercrombie and Fitch Rising Stars campaign before her
Olivia
breakthrough
Munn.
role in Winter. I'm doing the list.
Okay, sorry.
Channing Tatum, which you said about in the early 2000s before his career took off with Step Up. Taylor Swift. Before, in 2003, 2004. Ashton Kutcher, which you mentioned, in the 90s before that 70s show. January Jones. I don't know who the fuck that is.
Neither do I. Olivia Wilde.
Was she the one in
She's like Asian looking one that like she did
it's
video games. She was like a video game journalist or something.
It's not the one I'm thinking of. Penn Badgley.
I have no fucking
No,
idea
the
who
fuck
that
I know
is.
that is. And the 50 Shades of Grey guy, who is, I literally
course,
only
yeah.
know him because it says he was in 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. A lot of them, I mean, asking, I don't know, I'm not going to speculate about whether any of these people were passed around or whatever, but a lot of the people who have come forward were male models. And this is I think, other than the Diddy scandal, this is the largest number of males who have come forward.
What's the fella's name?
Fuck, just type it in.
Philip Fitch?
I don't, it's not Philip Fitch.
John Abercrombie?
No, I don't remember his name. I don't think it's John Abercrombie. We have to show them a picture of what he looks like.
I've got to find out what his name is.
Demonic looking creature.
Fitch. What?
But yeah, like in all honesty, this is like the biggest amount of men that have come out other than the Diddy scandal. And I think the floodgates are opening in that regard now, with men beginning to talk about their experiences. I remember Terry Crews was one of the first people to do that, and he was ridiculed. People ridiculed Terry Crews when he spoke out about his experience with being sexually assaulted. They called him gay. They called him all sorts of things.
So is this Gary Busey looking motherfucker?
Yeah, this guy. Look
Right.
at him. Look, this is the guy who's judging everyone's looks, who thinks he's this sort of Apollonian god who has an eye for beauty. Look at this guy.
I mean, his teeth are white.
Look at him.
His teeth are white.
That's about it. That's the only redeeming quality on his face.
I don't know if that's got to. It's not a face he's pulling. He's got a
He's
weird thing with his lip and his eyes, isn't he?
Deformed. And these people hate themselves, and they push values onto young people that sort of diminish their self-esteem, invoke comparison. You know, things like, you know, posturing for social status, because these people themselves are insecure.
God, he aged like a lemon as well, didn't he?
These people themselves are insecure.
To go from sort of like a pretty, I mean, you're not a good looking bloke.
Like
to
most
sort of like, whoa,
Yeah.
you look like Darth Sidious's cousin or
They
something.
do. They do. Look at, type in Karl Lagerfeld. Karl Lagerfeld is another
Lagerfeld.
one that's absolutely atrocious to look at. Donatella Versace. All of these people in the fashion industry that dictate what beauty
this guy's
is
got
are
riz.
so fucking ugly.
This guy's got riz. I'll give him that.
He can dress.
These glasses are giving him a lot of.
Yeah,
a
he
lot
can
of,
dress. He's done.
a lot of riz.
He can dress.
He's
Karl
got
Lagerfeld can dress.
He's got like a cat-like face. I wouldn't really say he's ugly.
He's ugly. He looks deformed. He looks
He doesn't.
inhuman.
He looks kind of like a Colombian dude. I don't know. If
He looks
looks,
inhuman. He's had so much plastic surgery done to his face. Like
There
he
you
looks
go.
fucking. That's when he was younger. I'm talking about what he looks like now.
Yeah, I
and
know,
even
but-
then, he wasn't a fucking looker.
No, but he's not. Just
He's not
like
the sort of person. I'm just saying.
He
When
looks
it comes
old-timey. He looks like what people used to look like in
to no,
pictures. you know what I mean?
no.
Like
He
people don't
looks-
look like that
he's
anymore.
ugly. Donatella Versace. Type in Donatella
Those
Versace.
glasses are doing so much work.
Type in Donatella Versace.
Pinch me.
Type in Donatella Versace.
I don't know how to fucking type that. What are you talking about?
Type it in. People need to see these people and the people who decide what beauty is.
Is she trans?
Well, I don't think she is, but she definitely,
Come on.
looks very ambiguous.
You're telling me she's not trans?
She looks incredibly ambiguous.
Come on now.
She looks kind of like Glenn Close, and like how Glenn Close has that kind of
you
like
know my
strong,
feelings on Glenn Close.
strong kind of features in that sense. But yeah, these are the people who are deciding what beauty is. And I don't know why anyone listens to them. I don't know
pretty
why anyone
crazy.
listens to them. And also it shows how much having self-esteem is literally like psychic self-defense.
Grim.
And most Americans don't have self-esteem because they are inculcated in this culture. They allow people like this to tell them what's beautiful and what's not. And Abercrombie and Fitch was a viral phenomenon. People absolutely fucking were obsessed with it. They were fucking obsessed with it. They were obsessed with it. They were obsessed with it, using it as a status symbol. They thought it made them beautiful. They thought it gave them proximity to beauty. All of this shit. All of this shit. From that man. From that fucking ugly, deformed, demonic. I cannot, like the fashion industry, all of it, like it needs to die. Like it's so disgusting.
Amadan said, Karl Lagerfeld looked like the cat from Red Dwarf. And that's impressive that
true.
you know that as an American, if I'm honest.
You get points
You
for
get
that.
big cool
You get
points for knowing Red
points for
Dwarf
that.
as an American. I give you that one. And yeah, he definitely did, but not as black.
Yeah.
Kind of like a coffee cat.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy.
So he's been molesting. He's been doing a lot of molesting.
Yeah, and men are coming
And-
forward. Men are coming forward in droves for the first time. And I'm glad, and I also think it's going to open people's eyes to how much sexual assault is common among men. People thought that it was only a thing that happened to women in the entertainment industry, but I'm willing to argue it happens to men equally as much. And before I thought maybe it was like women more, men to an extent, but the Diddy scandal made me realize it probably is a lot of men. Like a lot of men get sexually assaulted and like turned out in Hollywood for sure. And like Cat Williams talked about this, like so many people have talked about this, and it's just sort of gone under the radar for so long.
Yeah, but also what Cat Williams implies with what he says about that is he's been offered $50 million or some crazy amount of
suck
money.
dick.
And you just have to say no. It's
Yeah.
not that like he had to do it and
No.
had to take the money. Like he is
Sometimes
still
there's
like
drugs involved, because in this deposition, many of the men who have come forward have said that they were drugged with Viagra, muscle relaxants, and alcohol. So these were straight men who were sort of put in compromising situations. And I can understand why you wouldn't want to talk if that happened, because it's sort of a shameful, embarrassing thing. And then on the other hand, there are those who do suck the dick because they want the opportunity.
and they want the money.
And they want the money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're whores. It's
Yeah,
just
they
kind of,
are, yeah.
you know, that's how it is, right?
Yeah.
But I would there's not any drugs I've ever taken that's made me gay.
I mean, if you're drugged enough and you are
Really?
given Viagra and you are, in a
But
situation where your wits are not about you.
See, this is a misconception.
That's why
No,
this
no,
guy
no.
gave them Viagra so that they would get hard. I mean, it's
yeah,
rape.
okay,
It's fucking
yeah,
rape.
But that's the point, right? Viagra does not make you like, oh, I need to fuck. Like I'm horny beyond like lustful or whatever. It is
Unless you're already lustful.
Sure, but the drug does not inspire that in you, and so it doesn't like make you horny to the point where you need to fuck anything. even a dude. Is my point, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have that effect on
But
you.
it still makes you erect. So if somebody wanted to take advantage of you sexually, they could.
Yes.
And if you're already inebriated with other drugs, and this is what a lot of these men are claiming. They're claiming that they were drugged. And
So are they
sexually
claiming?
compromised.
So are they claiming that they were raped, or are they claiming that they were given drugs and chose to do this stuff?
They're claiming that they were drugged and
'cause
sexually
those-
compromised.
I don't know. There's not enough. There's like no drugs make me gay and make me decide to do that stuff. And so you were either drugged to the point where you were incapacitated and given drugs to make you hard, so you can be raped, or you were given drugs and put in this environment and you went along with it, and now you've got buyer's remorse.
Well, they tend to choose desperate people who are in financially desperate situations. One of the people who came forward in the deposition talked about a party that this Abercrombie and Fitch guy organized in Morocco, where these sort of things were sent out as if it was a casting call for modeling. There was like no mention of sex. So these are people who think they're going to get an opportunity, and then next thing you know, they're being pushed into a room. They're given drugs. They're told to drink a lot of alcohol to become inebriated. And the thing is, for me, there's no smoke without fire. Rumors about people using drugs, like Bill Cosby, all this stuff. This has been in Hollywood for a very, very long time. And I do think it is a tactic that is used to coerce people to get them out of their, right mind so that they can be taken advantage of. That's not to say there aren't people who are opportunists and who capitulate to sexual coercion because they want the opportunities. But when I think of someone like Terry Crews and how hard it is for men to come forward when they've been sexually compromised, I don't want to contribute to that culture.
No, absolutely. I'm not trying. That's not. I'm certainly not trying to take that angle. But it's more just like being realistic about the situations and responsibilities in which everybody has in situations like that. Again, Cat Williams.
He said no.
He said no.
Yeah.
He walked away. Because that is always an option.
That is an
You
option,
thought
yeah.
it was a modeling gig, and you get there, and
there's,
you're
like,
given copious amounts of ecstasy
alcohol
and
and-
fucking
yeah.
drugs or whatever it is, and everyone's sucking each other's dick. Do you, A, go, oh, this isn't a modeling call. This is a party, and get involved? Or do you go, oh, this isn't a modeling call and everyone's fucking each other and I feel very uncomfortable.
And run
So
away.
I'm going to continue taking more
Yeah.
drugs to be around all of this, or I'm going to go home and wait for the opportunity that I think I do deserve, or keep working for, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And if people don't want to take the respectable option or controllable options, or however you would want to fucking whittle that down,
Yeah.
then whatever situation you're in, you're a fucking model.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you're in such dire fucking situations that you've got to go and fucking do this.
Well,
and
yeah, I
whatever
mean, for
the
male
fuck.
models, for instance, modeling is not a prestigious vocation for a male.
No.
And if you're a man who is blessed with beauty, it's kind of like useless in a way, unless you can maximize on it, because beauty isn't something that men are necessarily rewarded for in society in the same way that women are. And also, if you're a man who's beautiful, you're naturally going to get shade thrown at you by other men, especially if you're getting attention from the girls. You're not going to fit in. It's almost like a feminizing thing to be beautiful as a man. You're not going to fit in with other men. They're going to see you as like something different. So a lot of these beautiful men want to model. They want to get into that world because they think they're going to be around other beautiful women. Also, gay men are a lot more appreciative of beautiful men in that sense.
Well, and they're
so it's like a world,
and they're basically offered a path in which they don't have to cultivate any kind of meaningful skill
to
or
work.
anything.
But it's hard to imagine Brad Pitt working on a construction site. He's a beautiful specimen. He wouldn't be able to be in society normally.
But you know
like
what?
he just wouldn't.
He figured out how to act, and he's actually a fucking great actor. And
But
so,
a lot of the people who don't make it, a lot of the men who don't, they're very beautiful in their younger years, their youth. They try to get into modeling and stuff to maximize it, or into entertainment, and then they get turned out and it ruins them. Like the guy who played the old man in Midsummer?
hang on, wait, Amadan. The reason why I'm hard on models is for the kind of where the conversation's gone now. For me, I feel like it's like a totally vapid and like stupid thing that almost shouldn't exist and is one of the first jobs that AI should be taking from stuff because of all of the stuff that you're talking about with predatory contracts and debt and like people not making the kind of money they should or whatever. It is actually like it's just awful. You shouldn't, as a human being, aspire in any way to be a model.
Yeah.
Like you have an entire brain and like
different
hands and all this stuff in which
and
you
a lot
can
of
like.
these kids were hoodwinked. Don't forget the 90s. The 90s was the height of the supermodel, where you had people like Tyra Banks, Naomi Campbell, Linda Evangelista, that Turlington chick, fucking Kate Moss, who were doing runways and making $1 million a show. So the supermodel was born, and it was sort of a viable career path. And none of those models necessarily had to transition into entertainment immediately because there was a lot of money in fashion at the time. Now that's no longer the case, but kids who grew up watching them are like, I want to do that. I aspire to do that. I want to get that. And they think they're going to get the same treatment, that they're going to make the same $1 million checks on the runway. And that's not real. That doesn't happen anymore. And most of them end up getting turned out and ruined. Like I said, the guy who plays the old guy in Midsummer, the one who jumps to his death, there's a documentary on him that I highly recommend everyone watch. And he's sort of the archetype of the B Ronin, the beautiful boy, in Japanese manga culture, because he was this sort of young male model and he went over to Japan. He was discovered, I think, in Paris. He went over to Japan and they sort of fell in love with him because they sort of loved the beautiful boy archetype, and they modeled the beautiful boy archetype after him. And he was flown around the world, taken to billionaires, all sorts of things, put in movies, all because he was this very sort of androgynous looking beautiful boy. But again, he was turned out. He didn't even mention the full extent of what was done to him. I assume he was a fucking pass around. And you can see as an old man, years of drug abuse, drug addiction, all the things he's done to cope with what happened to him. Yeah, Bjorn Anderson, that's who I'm talking about. All the things he did to cope with what may have happened to him. You know, this is what happens to the beautiful boy archetype. This is legitimately it. And it's the predators like that fucking demon that I just showed you who are sort of taking out their vengeance on these young men because they don't feel like they were blessed with that. And all their trauma from high school because no one fucked with them because they were ugly. Now they finally have the power to torture the beautiful people.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I think there's probably, what I'm trying to get at is there's an urge to do something which is not really work. Not really constructing a skill, not really providing benefit to anybody other than yourself and like whatever that was. And if that means that you might end up sucking a bit of dick or like whatever. Yeah. But that means you don't have to work a job, but you do get to fly around and you have to suck all these rich people dicks. Like people will accept that. And there was a lot more of those people than I think people would originally realized. And I think that is kind of what the last few years has kind of really like shown. And so I feel like,
but not everyone. There are people who are genuinely victims, which is what I'm trying to tell you, and you can't dismiss that.
I'm not dismissing that.
You can't dismiss that. Not everybody who has been in these situations is opportunistic. Some of them were for sure, but there are people, especially the ones who are drugged. Who were raped, who were compromised. Someone like Terry Crews, for instance. Look at what happened to him. He came out. Lots of people were saying, "Oh, you're a big black guy. Why didn't you just punch him in the face?" And it's like, listen, he's a black guy in Hollywood. If he had reacted that way, everyone would have said, "Look at the big angry black man. Put him in a cage."
It was in public as well.
It was in public, which is why the guy did it, because he knew if he reacted in that way, he would have looked bad. That's how these psychopaths and these predators think. They prey upon people's vulnerabilities and the social power that they have over these people.
But what is Terry Crews also, apart from being a victim in that instance? He's one of the hardest working motherfuckers like in his fucking industry. Like through fucking physical shit, through his fucking comedy, just through how much he's trying to do all the fucking time. I mean, he's fucking talented. Yeah. Right? His fucking idea to get into Hollywood wasn't, I'll do whatever it takes to fucking just do whatever and like be rich and fucking like be around and not really like do whatever. It was, no, I've got this fucking thing that I'm great at and I really want to fucking make this happen. And I like, he has this whole fucking romantic story about it with his fucking wife and like all this other fucking shit. Like, it was that you have to also look at the total and honest intentions behind someone and the reason they put themselves in situations.
Yeah.
And until people are really honest with that stuff,
I get what you mean.
I
get what you
really
mean.
don't have a lot of patience for
I
a
get
lot
what
of
you
those
mean.
conversations.
I get what you mean.
Because unless people are going to be fucking obvious about why they're there in the first place, why are we even having this fucking conversation? Like,
But there's a difference between those who are talented and those who are just in it for the fame.
And really
those who
don't know how many are there that are talented within that field of fucking modelling.
But those who are
come on.
well, there are people who are genuinely beautiful and who are great to look at and who fucking
That's not
look
talent.
great at clothes.
That's not talent.
Yes, it is.
It's not.
Look, when you're a model, I have friends who are models. They have to have strict diets, strict skincare routines, strict hair care routines. Looking that beautiful all the time is a fucking 24/7 job, and you would not want to do it.
Oh my God.
You wouldn't want to do it. You wouldn't
sound-
want to have to watch your calories all the time. You wouldn't want to have to, run till your fucking feet
because it's
bleed.
not human. It's not human to live like
but
that.
If you're,
and they're
would
not,
you say
they're
that
not
about a
living in-
ballerina? Would you say that about ballerina? Ballerinas are trying to do an art form, and they have to challenge.
They're trying to do culture.
Let me finish.
They're trying
They
to add
have
to a culture of
They have to
arts.
challenge and sort of remold their bodies in order to accomplish that art. It's the same thing with modeling. There are certain body types that look great as like hangers for clothes. This is sort of the excuse that.
And so they should just be gifted like money.
I'm not
for,
saying
like,
that, but I'm
being
saying
pretty.
modeling is
And,
a
like,
legitimate
that'll
thing.
be their life,
I'm
just
saying
because they're
I'm saying
pretty.
modeling is a legitimate thing, and it's not just the prettiness; it's the social capital and the brand of the face. The reason Naomi Campbell gets paid so much to do certain runways, Kate Moss gets paid so much to do certain runways, is because she's fucking Kate Moss, and she has a brand, and she's associating that brand with another brand.
Now that is why. And that is why there won't be any more Naomi Campbells and Kate Mosses and whatever else. Because actually, just being a pretty face
isn't enough
Sorry, love,
anymore.
but on the internet there is.
It's a dime a dozen.
I can
girlie.
type something
It's a dime
into
a fucking dozen.
Not even just that. I can type something into a box now and get that, and get one talking, and get one selling me a product or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
So just being pretty is fuck all.
Someone
in
says,
today's
Larry
age.
Walker says, Angie is so spot on about male beauty. It doesn't feel like a privilege. It's not. If you ask like very, very conventionally attractive men how it is to be them, they are very emasculated, incredibly emasculated by it. I mean, I feel like part of the reason why Leo kind of let himself go a bit is because he wanted to be taken more seriously as an actor.
Yeah, and he did some fucking great movies.
Yeah.
So like, you know.
Yeah.
He got out of being the pretty boy
or whatever.
and actually
but
did some
men
really
don't
great
like pretty
movies.
boys. Men don't like pretty boys at all, and they kind of feminize them, so it's emasculating in that sense. And women will fuck pretty boys, but pretty boy energy doesn't give daddy provider fucking energy. It doesn't give manly energy.
Well,
it doesn't give the type of energy that you want to take home to mama, if you know what I mean. So these men have very few options, unfortunately, until they grow into their masculinity most of the time. Once they grow into their masculinity and it becomes more of a masculine form of sexiness, then they can do more things. But when it's that pretty, type of Twinkie look, it's not really, there's not very many places in society where that sort of thing is a privilege.
I think if you center your entire career around beauty and things which basically surround sexual attraction, like there's gonna be loads of ugly shit within that.
Yeah.
And you're
Big time.
and
And
like-
ugly people will take advantage of you.
Yeah,
Big time.
undoubtedly.
And ugly people are the ones that take it because they're the ones that are the most resentful of the fact that you get the privilege because you're beautiful. And that's what a lot of these people don't realize. You're around people who fucking hate you and are projecting all kinds of crazy shit onto you 24/7. And that's for anyone. You don't even have to be a stunner or beautiful. Even if you're just like mildly conventionally attractive, having any form of beauty in society leaves you vulnerable to a lot of projection,
Do you know what
hostility, all sorts of
Do
things.
you know what I've just realized it is within me?
What?
I think for me, especially like for not just like on a masculine level, but probably more so on a masculine level, but this does apply to people in general, is that if I feel like you are just incompetent, I have absolutely no time or will to give you
Look
whatsoever.
how they treated Gerard Leto's character in Fight Club. that should give you an idea of how men view pretty boys. Like, the guy wanted to destroy his face, like, you know.
But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, that is, and that's why it's the same for women. Like, if you are just, look at me, a budgie, like, fucking look at me in the mirror. Like, don't care. Like, I have zero interest or even respect for you because you contribute nothing. You do nothing. Like, you just put on some fucking clothes, or the opposite. Like, it really is zero. You've zero in fucking contribution to culture, to anything. So,
but if that's what you want, then be prepared to bust it wide open.
Yeah.
If you want to be Kim Kardashian, be prepared to bust it wide open, is all I'm saying.
But I think people also do that. People also do that, and they seek that stuff because they are incompetent, probably, right? And I don't know. I feel like we are way too tolerant of incompetent people, and that's the sort of stuff we should be focusing on instead of like racism or like all of this other shit. It's just like, you know, thick incompetent people that don't contribute anything to society.
Because they always want an easy route, and that also the opportunists kind of enable the predators. But what makes me sad is when genuinely talented people get taken advantage of, and that's just as much of a problem as the opportunists. There are many, like Cat Williams, for instance. He allegedly said that Harvey Weinstein asked him to suck his dick. When on that Club Shay Shay interview or whatever, he legitimately said that. And that is a trauma. That's traumatizing. I don't care how fucking strong you are. If you go somewhere thinking you're going to get an opportunity and then the script flips like that and someone's trying to sexually coerce you, it can be one of the most soul-crushing encounters.
But that was also one of the funniest bits in that interview because he still got the part. Because he's fucking Cat Williams.
Yeah.
And he's undeniably talented and like incredibly funny.
True.
And so he's there with all these other guys then on the set, and he's like, what did you have to do to get like get here? I said no. Like, what did you do to get here? Kind of thing. Knowing kind of probably full well that there aren't really many people with the kind of same level of will as him or self-respect. Which is something that I think no matter what, like, you know.
Please love yourself. That's the moral of the story for us to cry, is love yourself. And I'm not saying it in a cheesy Hallmark card way. It's up to you whether or not you want to. It's literally like a life-saving thing to love yourself. So if you don't, you're leaving yourself as fodder for these sorts of forces and these sorts of people. Don't ever let anybody put you down. Don't let anybody tell you that you're not beautiful or not worthy, or that you don't have anything to offer the world because of how you look, or that you need to have certain status symbols. That's how you get taken advantage of and inculcated into these terrible worlds. And I think that part of the issue with America is that, and not just America, the Western world in general, is that we have such eroded values when it comes to these things, that they sound trite and like Hallmark card things, but it's the truth.
That was exactly what I was about to say. You need to sort of take a little bit of a Japanese mentality about it. Like,
meaning?
Is that an honorable?
Yeah.
You know,
is it an honorable?
Is this an honorable?
Jake says use Bushido.
Yeah, a little bit, right? Bushido discernment. You know, you look at this case and you go, was this person seeking, easy opportunity and whatever they would do to kind of get this position? Yeah. Or was this someone that was caught up in a horrible situation and whatever else?
Yeah.
And if you can sense the honor and sense the Bushido and discern it, then you know it's a case. It's like worth going through. Yeah. If you can not sense the Bushido, you see that there is no honor in this person's actions or how they conduct themselves, then why in the fuck are we even having the conversation or concerning ourselves about it? That is how I kind of feel, if I'm honest. And maybe I've come off incredibly crass and rude and like uncaring, honestly, in this episode. But like, kind of, I'm done with like kind of like taking softball approaches about shit anymore. Like that, that woman is like partly responsible for bad parenting. And, a lot of these models and things that get their butt grabs, they're kind of asking for it because they're not Bushido honorable, living their honorable life.
Yeah,
okay?
They just want to be famous. But I mean, it's
the truth.
It's still wrong of people to take advantage of them.
Of course, I'm not saying that.
But at the same time, if you play dumb games, you win dumb prizes.
Absolutely.
But
there we go.
At the same time...
There it is.
Oh my God, shush. At the same time as well, there are genuine people who were traumatized and taken advantage of, and who have been compromised and who were not cynical. And those are the people that I'm glad are speaking out. And those are the people who have my like full fucking support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, anywho, guys, we have rambled for way longer than we intended to tonight, but it was really fun talking to you guys. If you haven't already, please go and watch my new Depth Diaries video. It's my Halloween special. It's my favorite one that I've made yet. So go check it out. And leave a comment, leave a like. All of that stuff really helps us. Do that here too. I never stress enough how much we need you guys to like and comment here, because we need to be boosted. So please do that. And yeah, if you want to join us on Discord as well, we are reading Ion, Carl Jung's Ion. And you can also do that by joining the Patreon. So if you want to support us and to join our book club, you can do that by joining us on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for listening tonight, and we will catch you again next week. Goodbye.
Peace.